The video you just saw there is showing national against the South Africans rebelling and calling for peace, saying that if this is not stopped, it probably will gravitate towards other nations in South Africa having to kill South Africans. And we have records that a lot of nations represented, especially African nations, represented in South Africa are planning to evacuate their citizens, and knowing fully well that, as we clearly stated at the beginning of the show, that this is not the first record of xenophobic explosion in South Africa. And then we begin to ask, what has South African government done to help ensure that this does not continue? Now, last week's attack, Ishoma, what triggered this attack? We have it in record that the king of Zulu, that is Zulu King Godswill Welitini, made a very public statement and saying that foreigners should pack their bags and go because they are taking jobs from citizens, and I mean, as reported locally. And then shortly after his comment, violence, against immigrants erupted in the port city of Durban. And that's the video we just watched, when we saw Nigerians, Indians, the Chinese, a lot of nations coming together to say no to these to the spread of xenophobic attack in South Africa. And I mean, for me, I think this is the right way to go. But while we try to do that, we should be mindful also that since we really don't know the extent to which the South African guys, are ready to take this, then we should be careful. More lives are reported affected.
The honest truth is, the only way they can restore calm and bring a total end to this incident is if Jacob Zuma, that's the president of South Africa, urges his police team, his police force, and other security agencies to vehemently, give a standing order to them to arrest and prosecute any individual or group of individuals who are seen to commit such act. Until that is done, it can be assumed that...
But he's come out publicly to condemn the act.
It's not just enough to condemn. Violence. He has spoken. He has spoken. He has condemned it. But what has been done after? Because it's not just enough to say, I'm against this. You have to also carry out actions. Have you seen situations of the police going out en masse to fire tear gas or to disperse crowds of individuals who are committing such acts? Have you seen situations where the police have arrested individuals who were committing such acts? No. So as far as I'm concerned, since that is not done, it can be assumed that probably the South African government is in support of it. And really, if care is not taken, because this is an international offense, this is no longer a national issue. Issues of international disputes could escalate.
But information actually have it, Ishoma, that this probably started in March when there was, this was reported by the United Nations, that the attack started in March after a labor dispute between citizens, and foreign workers.
Foreign workers. And now look, it's growing. And if this is not curtailed now, this could go out of hand. So what has to be done is that security agencies now need to be on their toes. Of course, we saw how some South African individuals were condemning the Nigerian government for playing lip service issues to the Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria. Let us see. The world is watching now how the South African government also will be able to face this critically.
Now, some things have to do with the trending. The spread of this activity. The question in the mind of Nigeria will be like, okay, so why immigrants are targeted? In Nigeria, we have a lot of jobs that are being done, by expats. I was reading a report yesterday where an engineer was writing, in the spread, I've forgotten the newspaper, but it was saying very classically that the reason why it appears that engineers in Nigeria doesn't seem to be making progress in terms of developing as technology evolve and all of that is because foreign companies have taken over all the jobs.
I
foreign contractors have taken, but we are not fighting. We never fought.
I understand their pain. It happens virtually in every part of Africa where you have foreigners who come in and take. But that is not an excuse. If you feel intimidated that foreigners are coming and are getting the best
then step
job,
up your
then
game.
You should step up your game.
That's what Nigerians do.
You should go to school.
You know.
You should go to school. You should work hard and make sure you set a target for yourself that I want to get the best of the job.
Let's quickly take a look at the elements of some of the things why they're targeting immigrants. One of it is that some citizens have accused African immigrants of taking their already scarce jobs. That means the focus or the face of South Africa that we know to be like a greener pasture, as it were, is actually not, totally a true representation of the economy in South Africa. If you give us the impression as if the economy is better than what we have in Nigeria, then it
is better than what we have in Nigeria because of how they are able to manage their resources and make it or transform it, for the people.
But these resources are being managed by foreigners. That's the issue.
It's managed by foreigners. It's managed by South Africans also. But however it is, they're still able. The government is still able to manage it. Now it's different. It's slightly different from what we have here, in the sense that we have a lot of Nigerians, we have a lot of foreigners doing business here. But at the end of the day, you do not see it translate to greener pastures.
Okay, now another very good element why they're targeting immigrants is that they believe that more than 65% of crimes that takes place in South Africa is actually committed by foreigners. Now, that cannot be substantiated until you bring statistics to actually show. It is known. I have had an opportunity to stay in South Africa for a while.
South Africa is one of the African countries with the highest crime rate.
Exactly. And now the citizens are saying that most of these crimes are committed by foreigners.
But the honest truth is, let's be factual and realistic here. There is no way an individual, will come into a place who he's not sure of. I don't think the crimes that are being perpetrated in South Africa are 100% done by foreigners alone. They are doing it in conjunction with South Africans. So they shouldn't lay this blame on foreigners alone. That's not a good enough excuse, in my own opinion. It's not good enough excuse.
All right. For me, looking at it from, the elements, all the things that made it really very, very, very pathetic is to look at the content of, to look at the very elements why South Africans are lashing, on foreigners and all of that. And we have a record saying that, okay, they contribute, they've taken the part of the small jobs that is available for the citizens. Number two is that they constitute, the bulk of nuisance when it comes to crime rate. And then the nation's unemployment rate is about 25% according to the government figures. So the government in South Africa has not even created enough jobs for their citizens. Let alone, and what I have discovered, while I was just trying to read, why will this happen? I discovered that the bulk of the jobs, businesses that are being attacked today were not created by the South African government. They were created by these foreigners. They brought in their money to invest into that economy. They started those businesses by themselves. They pay tax. They do all that is necessary. And let me tell you something. A South African can get into Nigeria today and establish a business next door. If you try it in South Africa without collecting the papers, you are in trouble. So people go there to do their legitimate business in South Africa, and we don't kill them in Nigeria. I know a lot of things that, okay, for example, let's use a classical example of multi-choice. They provide pay TV for Nigerians.
Of course.
Over the last 20 years, they have monopolized the market. They came up recently, even though, we have, the legislators are saying that they are going to come up with a very strong law or policy to make sure that this does not take effect because Nigerians are already shouting. If we want to react to South Africa, we can boycott all the businesses they are doing. We stop using, the telecommunication company, represented here. We stop using their pay TV. We stop going to the shopping malls that they created in Nigeria. We can just do some certain things to reply, to let them really know that we are grieved.
But at the end of the day, that call is for the government to make. But my issue is, whatever decision that should be done should come later on, after the Nigerian government has, first of all, taking responsibility for the lives of Nigerians in South Africa. And how do they do that? First of all, think of how they can evacuate Nigerians there.
Don't forget there was a time in the history.
That is the first thing that should be done.
Don't forget there was a time they tried to start something that I would have expected Nigeria to react. A lot of Nigerians were returned from the border. Ask me what happened. Yellow card.
They didn't have the yellow card.
All the other documents you requested for to give them visa were presented and you gave them visa. You were returning them back from the border because of yellow card. Well, I mean, and that to me is...
I am not making an excuse for that, but you know your yellow card contains your medical health status.
South Africa, when it comes to documentation...
If they were being careful...
South Africa, when it comes to documentation, are they as strict as the US or the UK?
I know they are not, but if I can assume, I'm not making an excuse for them though, but I can assume why they had to reject these individuals from entering their border was probably because we do not want a case where someone is coming to our country with a particular contagious disease, and just because he does not have his yellow card showing the state, so let him go back, get your yellow card, and you can come back.
Of Nigerians going into other countries.
But I expect the new coming administration to learn from these incidents. We said something that this whole reorientation idea should also span to the fact that Nigerians abroad, that is Nigerians outside the shores of Nigeria, whether in Africa or in Europe or in Asia, wherever they are, should begin to be treated like people. We do not want such violent attacks to be carried out. The same way no individual can wake up and say, you're an American, I will do this to you. You know you cannot. No other government will support it. Because they know they will not want to face the wrath of America. I expect that our incoming government should do that. They should focus on that.
As a nation, we need a rebranding.
This is painful.
We have had cases where Nigerians, students, I mean, arrowheads of families being killed in places like Dubai, and nothing is happening to it in places, across the nation, and our country need to really sit tight. Now, another very key element is, resentment over porous border, growing crime rates, poverty and corruption, also are a major concern, to be analyzed. President Zuma, in fairness, came up and addressed the public, saying, my government is addressing the social and economic concerns, but he said immigrants contribute to the nation's economy and they bring skills that are in demand and should not be stereotyped as criminals.
But it's not enough to just give a press briefing.
It needs to give protection.
You need to give these people protection. You need to make sure that this xenophobic act is stopped immediately. It's not just enough to speak out. Yesterday, people were still killed. God knows, probably today, people may still be killed, but what has it done to stop it? That is the issue. And my issue is, and I'm addressing this to South Africans who are carrying out this act, if you have any grievance that people are coming to take your jobs, you shouldn't channel it to the innocent people who came to make a living. Face your government. It's your government to create the jobs, not the foreigners. Face your government. At least they should have representatives there. Don't they have representatives representing the people? Speak to your representatives and let your representatives take your message to the government so they can know how they can increase the quota of jobs given to nationals. That is how things are done in any sensible democratic country.
All right.
Not by going violent.
Let's quickly go through a few details just to help put the show in perspective. The nation has about 2 million documented and undocumented immigrants, which is about 4% of the total population, according to a study by the University of the Witwatersrand. Now, Zimbabweans, they make up the largest group of immigrants in South Africa. Also, South Africa is a top travel destination for wealthy Africans because of its proximity and developed infrastructure. I had an opportunity to stay in South Africa for about 6 months at a point, and I started to enjoy. I came to a conclusion, and my conclusion was that I think South Africa is actually a mystic country in Africa. It does not have any similitude to compare with a few other African nations that I've visited, really and truly. They have developed in terms of infrastructure.
Could it be because of the white presence?
Oh, yes.
The mix?
Oh, yes. It's because of the mix.
This is the reason, and I hope the incoming Nigerian government can learn a lot. Now should be the time they should make up their minds, go back to the drawing board, and see how they can develop this nation that Nigerians abroad will begin to come back home to invest and do business, rather than go outside and become victims of unfriendly activities. And also make our nation a destination heaven. So you can even have foreigners coming here to spend holidays, not Nigerians running over there. Now, all of this should call for serious attention.
With details. I mean, some group of people are asking, has South Africa had a xenophobic, attack before? Yes, this is the latest in the series of all the attack that is dated back in years. And in January, looters burned businesses owned by foreigners, especially Nigerians, in another wave of xenophobic attack. In addition, there were other incidents of violence last year. Human Rights Watch said, they talked about this. 7 years ago in Johannesburg was the, epicenter of more anti-immigrant tension that left dozens dead, attack that later spread to Cape Town. Most of the victims were Zimbabweans who had, fled, repression and their economic circumstances in their nation. In those attacks, police arrested more than 200 people on various charges, including rape, murder, robbery, theft. And in 2006, xenophobic violence broke out again for several months in Cape Town. So we have in Durban, we have in Johannesburg, we have in Soweto, we have in Cape Town, and that means this needs to be curbed. It's spreading very fast.
And these are major towns, major cities there.
It's just, all right. Hello, Usman, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Usman.
Good morning, my people.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine. How was the weekend?
Very well.
Good, good.
I guess we should be discussing xenophobia attack in South Africa by now.
Yes, that's what
we're discussing.
All right, thanks. I have been wondering what has been going on with Nigerian government. Put them aside now. Let's go to the African Union. If this were to be happening in Nigeria, you will see a lot of them commenting, Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that, Nigeria is this. They will be listing Nigeria in the terrorist list. Now, nothing is happening to South Africa in the list. Many people, many Nigerians were being killed, and our government, since last week, since January, I guess, hasn't done anything tangible to secure the lives of the lives and property of my people in South Africa. I bet you, before this week runs out, nothing is being done. My friends in the area, we have ganged up. I swear to Almighty God.
Do not do that. Please,
my sister, my sister.
Usman, two wrongs never make a right.
Usman, we won't go that route.
Do not carry out any reprisal attacks on foreigners. Please. Please, we do not support that and do not do that. Please.
Don't incite Nigerians, Usman. I know.
Please, do not do that.
To us. We won't support that. All right, we'll go on a short break now, and then when we come back, we'll be taking you through the last lap of the show. Don't go nowhere. All right, you are back. This is still Crossfire, and we'll be looking at the spread of the xenophobic attack in South Africa, vis-a-vis the actions that a lot of African nations are taking to ensure that the lives of their citizens in South Africa are kept safe. All right, we've been discussing these, and it's so very pathetic when you have a nation who is not very sensitive to the needs of its citizenry. Now, when you have a nation who is slow at taking action on a particular endeavor that probably will degenerate, don't forget that the extent to which Boko Haram has gone today is not because we don't know the right thing to do. Imagine if Boko Haram has been fought 1 year into their existence or 2 years into their existence, but now we've left them to succeed for the past 6 years. And today we are just managing information, not really totally. More than 200 girls were taken away, abducted. As it seems, maybe less, maybe more, but the truth is just that we have not been able to see the faces of the Chibok girls. But notwithstanding, let's go ahead there. Now, let's quickly look at what the other African nations are doing about this. Victims of xenophobic attack have been from various African nations. That includes Nigeria, Somalia, Ethiopia, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and even Kenya. And what they are doing at the moment, we have in record that Zimbabwe, Malawi, and one other country, I think Kenya, are already evacuating their citizens. I don't know what Nigeria is doing. If we are doing the same thing, I mean, if we have any information about that, we'll definitely make it available to you. But I think to a very large extent, I saw Mrs. Pt.2 trying to, to intervene on Friday, on Saturday.
Come on, even if the federal government sleeps on their responsibility, can't we have any good meaning state governor or state government taking it upon themselves
I even heard about in Zambia, all the radio stations, more popular radio stations, the most heard, they said they won't play any South African music. I mean, what are we doing as a nation to actually, play our role in this particular one? We have a call. Hello, are you there? Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Abraham.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Abraham.
Welcome to CrossFire.
Thank you. I'm calling from Abuja, actually.
Welcome,
All right, how's Abuja today?
Fine, thank you.
All right, go ahead and make your contribution.
Speaking about this xenophobic attack, as at when the Chibok girls were kidnapped, I remember on the news, I watched the TV on the news, so many, march, so many campaigns, so many placards hanging just to mount pressure on the Nigerian government to at least do something. And I think concerning this xenophobic attack, what the Nigerian government, if at all, the Nigerian citizen, what they should be doing now is actually organizing rallies, carrying placards to actually mount pressures on even the South African government to at least stop this, if not for anything, but to protect Nigerians. And I think that is what Nigerians should be doing now. Carrying arms may not be the way out.
Never.
There are so many things that we can actually do to pressure the South African government to actually act on this issue. It is not just by talking. Condemning it is not. I see most of this condemning as waste of time. If you come up to condemn, you're talking. You are not doing anything. And I expect by now our civil society should come out in mass with their placard condemning this. And I want to. Other nations should do the same. Let's mount pressure on the South African government. Let them know that what they are allowing the citizens to do is wrong.
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution, Abraham.
Even putting some stringent economic measures.
Let's take Francis. Too. Good morning, Francis.
Hello, Mr. Francis.
Hello, Francis. Are you there?
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. I want to make some little contribution.
Please go ahead.
Please, what I'm trying to say to people in Nigeria, I believe that this is a lesson to many of us that are going to those places to go and, for them, those money they are having, for them to use it for within ourselves here, they will start going to another country to go and develop those money. I believe this one is lesson to them. So I'm just supporting whatever South Africa are doing to them. This one will be a lesson. Let them come home and invest that money within ourselves here. So anyway, that is my little contribution.
All right, thank you, Francis. We condemn it vehemently.
We condemn it.
I mean, because of time,
killing is never a
I would have expected that major South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, African, nations, their president would have called an emergency meeting.
African Union
sitting down, exactly.
And what's the United Nations doing?
Exactly. I mean, people have just been issuing statements here and there. They have just been making statements.
However they look at it, this is crime against humanity.
I believe that the crowd in South Africa today should be dispersed.
Are they
people should go back to their work and their businesses and all of that.
Petition reporting South Africa to the International Criminal Court. Is that what they're waiting for before something is done? These are activities that result to crime against humanity and should not be taken lightly. Something has to be done. But at the end of the day, the truth is xenophobia, racism, and sexism must be fought with tenacity, wisdom, and enlightenment.
Now look at another thing that happened in Mozambique.
Never through violence.
In the last 1 week, look at what happened in Mozambique. South African energy and chemical giant Sasol sent about 340 South African national home. The company said Mozambicans employees voiced concern about reported violence against their nationals and protested the presence of South Africans employees in Mozambique, and they were sent home.
True.
I mean, I am not saying we will not preach violence on this show.
Never.
We are against it, and we speak very, very much against it. And we are not saying go out there and fight back. We're even reaching out to South African, to Nigerians in the diaspora, and especially in South Africa as we speak, to keep calm as our nation
to keep calm, be vigilant, but be a brother's keeper also. And be smart.
And all of that. Anyway, we'll bring you more story on the xenophobic attack in South Africa as events unfold. Join us tomorrow morning once again for another very interesting episode of Crossfire with Dapo and Isioma. Stay out of trouble, and we wish you all the best.
And please say no to violence. Thank you.